Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I'm Mateo311 and this is your channel for everything VR related. Today, we're checking out one of the coolest and most practical VR accessories I've used in quite some time. Now, it's definitely not going to be for everybody, but I have to say the brand new Roto VR chair definitely impressed me. And I also want to mention the fact that this is not a sponsored video. Yes, Roto VR did give me early access to the chair for testing, but there were absolutely zero strings attached or questions asked. Now from here, I'm just going to tell you what exactly the Roto VR chair is, how does it work, why do I recommend it, who do I recommend it to, basically everything you need to know. A lot of VR accessories are just kind of impractical. I've tried everything from the catwalk where you run in place to the haptic suit, which I like, but each one of these devices has something that kind of frustrates me and prevents me from using it as much as I really want to. And I did not find that to be the case with the Roto VR. So let's just start breaking this thing down. The Roto VR is a 360 motorized swivel chair. So this is not motion simulation like the Yaw VR, nor does it make any attempt to emulate that type of functionality. Instead, this is for VR gamers who want to up their immersion while playing in a seated position, or for those who suffer from motion sickness. Now, being 100% honest, my expectations for this device going in were extremely low. I didn't think it would up immersion at all. I didn't want to play seated. I was skeptical that it could help people with motion sickness, and I thought it was going to be cumbersome, hard to use, and end up being another piece of VR junk that lays around my house. But honestly, that's not the case. I expect to use this thing quite often for numerous different projects, and also to like kind of highlight VR when people come over my house and they want to like up their immersion. I have some really cool ideas that I'm going to utilize this thing for. I'm pointing to it. You can't see it. I'm sitting on it, but I'll show off tons of B-roll images so you guys can see more of it. Now, I've recently played hours of Metal Hellsinger in this chair, and when I went back to playing it standing, I found myself missing the chair. I'm all for the physicality that VR titles bring, but sometimes you're just not in the mood for it, and gaming while seated will allow you to play for much longer, or just be that much more relaxing. And this breaks into the first and most important aspect for me. The fact that you could use this with every single game that you could play seated. That's been an issue with other accessories. Like gun stocks, well, you can really only use it in a shooter game. It doesn't always feel right. It doesn't always match up to the gun. Some games, have modes for gun stocks. Some games don't. This works right out of the box with zero software. Nothing to set up, nothing to install. A little dongle you put on the top of your headset. That is it. And you are good to go. So no fooling around with mods, any of that stuff. As much as I love my haptic suit, sometimes the mods are annoying. Sometimes the fact that you gotta, install this software, or the software acts up, or Bluetooth kicks out. None of that here. This works out of the box. Honestly, it's just a small dongle you put on your headset. So not only is it extremely practical, easy to set up and use, but also works with just about every single headset and game out there. Now, another reason why I don't play a lot of VR games seated is because normally you can't, or it's a struggle. Like if you're on your couch or you're in a chair with armrests, you'll be smacking the armrest constantly. You're trying to reach down like to get a gun out of your holster, and you can't because your armrest is there. Or in the couch, you're too slouched or crunched up, and it impacts your ability to play the game. Not in the Roto VR chair. Look, my arms are completely free, down at my sides. I could grab wherever I need to. I'm not impacted. I could swing and play those extra violent games. And I could actually use the chair to enhance my swing. I can make the chair swing for me a little bit. So it's practical. It's not like, hey, it supports all seated games. No, this is actually kind of ideal. This is the ideal way to play a seated VR title. So honestly, guys, I was impressed. I'm going to start playing more games seated, which I know is kind of VR blasphemy, but I can play longer and I'm going to still feel immersed. Now, how does it up the immersion? I know you guys are wondering this. So that dongle you attach to the top of your headset tracks your head orientation. Turn your head to the left, the chair turns to the left. Turn it to the right, it turns to the right. And if you wanted to, you can even make it keep swiveling 360s. Now, you might be thinking that doesn't sound ideal, but in-game, it feels perfect. I was circle strafing enemies like a boss, and this chair can definitely haul ass. Like, it'll turn pretty damn fast. Now, I have it on the default mode, but there's 3 different speeds. If you find it overwhelming, you could slow it down a little bit, or if you really want to crank it, you could go all the way up. Now, there's one other aspect of immersion this chair brings, and that is a rumbler on the bottom, but I'm not the biggest fan of this feature. Not only do I think the rumbler doesn't add too much, it's a little bit of a cumbersome setup, and I'll get into that a little bit later when I talk about how I've used this chair to add even more immersion now, but we'll get back to that, like I said. It's almost like this was an afterthought, like how do we add more value or more immersion? But honestly, this was the only factor of the Roto VR that I wasn't a huge fan of. Now, another aspect that I really liked was the fact that this thing was super easy to assemble. I put together tons of things, guys. Something like the Catwalk VR is a major headache, and that's before you even get to the software. Again, no software for this thing. Very easy. Probably took me 20 minutes to put it together. And another huge benefit is the fact that it's on wheels. So I don't need to keep this in the middle of my room like the Catwalk VR, which I couldn't move with the help of friends. This thing is on wheels. I can just push it out of the way when I'm not using it, put it in a corner somewhere, have an extra chair that, someone could sit if they really want to. And boom, it's that easy. Like, I really appreciate that stuff. If something's going to take me 10 hours to set up and still not work really well, and it's like stuck in the middle of my room, it's just not practical. This bad boy was practical. I'm going to pull it out whenever I want to play seated because it's just so easy. It's not going to slow me down. I'm going to get into my game in 2 seconds. So because of all those aspects, I really appreciate this chair and I really like it. But let's get into the recommendation talk. Well, this chair is $800. So unless you got money to burn, or you're someone who loves VR but just, suffers from motion sickness or really cannot remain standing for, extended period of time, it's hard to recommend. That's a big expense. I mean, you can get 2 VR headsets, 2 Quests Plus for that. With the Quest 3S, you almost get 3 of them for that. So this honestly isn't for everyone. But they are adding additional features to it over time, which will make it more practical for certain people, or at least give it more use cases. Like, they are doing a full steering wheel and gas pedal setup, which this chair would be ideal for. Because remember, if you have one of those setups and they're stuck and you can't move it, that's a pain in the butt. But this guy on wheels, and it's right there, and you just wheel it out when you need it, one plug. And it even has, the extended brick. I do wish that they had a longer power cable. It's something they should consider. But besides that, like, this thing is ideal. Just wheel it out, plug it in, turn it on, and you're in instantly. It's just super useful. Now, I also mentioned that after dealing with a little complicated setup for the Rumbler, which the dongle that you put on the top of your headset actually will then plug into a 3mm adapter. So this is only going to work on like your Quest 2, Quest 3, not the Quest 3S. The Rumbler won't work. And then their recommendation is, plug that in there. It's going to send the signal down to the Rumbler, which is going to shake your butt, and life is great. And just use wireless headphones. I don't like using headphones. I'm just not a fan. I don't have a good pair of wireless headphones. So what I did was got a audio splitter and put on my PlayStation headphones. They have a 3mm jack. So I split the audio between the dongle and my headphones. Now I have really high quality audio. Sound's still going to the Rumbler. But I said, you know what? Let's take this one step further. Let's split the audio one more time and plug it into my haptic suit. The haptic suit, like I said, I really enjoy, but sometimes, dealing with the software, dealing with mods, it's a little annoying. I want it to be plug and play. Well, now it kind of is, because I have just that extra cable hanging off the back of my headset. I plug it into the haptic suit and use haptics to, audio to haptics, and we're good to go. And there's also power in the back of this chair. So I just leave the haptic vest on the chair. There's a plug there for it. It's always powered in. It's always good to go. So I sit down, I put my haptic vest on, I do my plug here for my audio to haptics, and now I'm getting pretty much what the Rumbler isn't providing. So I could probably even bypass the Rumbler. It's, the haptic suit is going to give me much more. I don't need to split the audio 3 times. But so that, gave me the idea of, wow, this is super useful. And in terms of Roto VR, future aspects of doing for this, like I said, they're going to add the steering wheel and pedals and stuff. They should maybe consider doing like a little hub on the back so that you can hang your headset off and charge the controllers at the same time. So your controllers are always on the chair, always charging. You sit down, you grab them, and you're good to go. Convenience, stuff like that. I do enjoy the fact that there are power plugs and stuff in the chair for third-party devices. Like I said, I'm using it for my haptic suit. But they can make it a little bit more robust. They can add some other options there. Right now, it's just one USB-C port. And, you know, I'd just like to see more, or just more ways to just store your stuff, more accessories. Because honestly, when you start having all this VR stuff, it takes over your room. So why not have it all in one place, good to go? And I didn't talk about it. I did mention the fact that this does technically work with any VR headset because it doesn't utilize software. It's all hardware. But if you're going to be doing PC VR, you might run into like a Final Destination type of scenario where you're spinning around and wrap that cable up, you know, like around your neck or something. That's not great. I mean, you can technically get power from the chair up to the headset, but there's always that risk of, you know, that one DisplayPort cable going to your PC, wrapping around something. So this is much more ideal for standalone gaming or PC VR gaming over Wi-Fi, or with any other wireless solution like Nofio or HTC's wireless adapter. Because in that case, you're not going to strangle yourself. But overall, I was impressed with this product. The only drawback is that pretty massive price tag. But honestly, you need a strong motor to swing a 200-pound person around. Now, I didn't check out the limits on this. If you're a super big boy, you might want to look into that. But for me, yeah, this thing has me cruising in circles. Definitely impressed. Definitely liked it. Nice job, Roto VR. Want to see what else, little other accessories you add for this. And you guys can expect to see me in this chair a lot more often. That was today's video. If you have any additional questions, please drop them down below. If you enjoyed this, you know what to do. Thumbs up. And I will see you guys on next time.